All right, guys, Melissa here. Gorgeous day in Colorado today. It's not too hot, not too cold. It's just like perfect. So I've been door dashing, making some money, and I want to talk a minute about when your husband abandoned you. So I was married, still married technically, 33 years to my husband, and I've known him since second grade. So as I tell people about this, they're like, you gotta be kidding me. He just left. He didn't even have a conversation. And I'm like, nope. He just made up his mind without even talking to me. He just made up his mind that he didn't want to be married, and that was it. He walked out. He walked away. And there was no need for it, right? If you follow me, you'll see what had happened where we lost housing in New Hampshire. Landlord pretty much had his mind made up that he was selling. So even if I had agreed to paying more rent, he had already made up his mind. The place was full of mold. It was just not something that I would want to buy, right? And my husband was in love with the house, and many times he said, I'll keep the house without you. So we had a really good marriage. We really did, up until about like the last couple years. I mean, he had his anger issues all the way up. Some men are more prone to anger than other men. And, but when he would, kick the walls or punch the walls or leave marks in the door, that's kind of intimidating, right? He couldn't control himself, and he would do this at work too. So, he seemed like everything had made him angry, just everything. If it wasn't work, if it wasn't this, if it wasn't that. And once you come out of that, as I came out of that situation, I remember him being like, I'm going to kick your ass and all this stuff, like the last couple years. The house, I don't think he could handle it. He was all stressed out about everything. So, luckily I moved to Colorado. We had agreed I would, and luckily I did. Because the way the finances are, the way inflation is, I saw it coming too with inflation. I'm like, the market's tough. We're going to have to figure something else out. And I think it's going to get worse, things with the economy. But I saw it coming, and therefore that gave him a lot of room to just take care of himself while I was figuring things out, and to be able to even benefit off of the move and have a lot of money saved, right? He could have put money away. And it wasn't necessary when I came over here to find housing. It was something I had to do for my son. You don't want your kids to be homeless, right? So I had a minor. I would have been the type of woman to stay with my husband through thick and thin, and even in a truck. I would have lived in a truck with my husband. I see people here who are homeless who are still together. There's no excuse for walking out on a marriage like that. So his excuse was, he said I left him in his truck, and he tried to pull that one with the court. So he left himself in the truck. He was offered hotels and everything. He just didn't want to be married anymore, and that's all there was to it. And so he tried to use everything in the book as an excuse. So at this point now, it's, I objected to a lot. I tried to save the marriage. Is there a Christ-like love for him still? Yeah, there always will be. There's no doubt about that. You can love people through God's Spirit. But as far as wanting to be married to him, no, I don't want to be married to him anymore. And it's just, as I've dealt with that trauma and dealt with that, and I dealt with a little bit of the divorce at first, which was pretty shocking. I was like, oh my goodness, I have no words for this, right? And yes, we too are sinners. We have betrayed Christ. We're sinners. We've done wrong. There's no question about it. But when you have a husband who left you, and not only is that offensive to you, just a little bit, but then he left your sons. There's more of a righteous anger for him leaving our sons than anything. He didn't care. He just left. All he did was he was out for himself. That's it. And there's no excuse for it. He could have easily communicated. I was in communication the whole time with him, and I'm like, look, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? I don't know. He could have easily said, just like he lived with Matt for a little bit, said it didn't work out. He could have easily said, look, I found this, I was offered this housing with Leandro. I can stay here, but we're going to have to change the finances. We're going to have to do this and we're going to have to do that with the finances. And it could have easily been taken care of, right? I could have, we could have already been back together like months ago. It would have all been solved, but he chose. And I was telling a friend this too, that he chose. He didn't. You can have hard circumstances or challenges, right? But it's the choices you make. So we had, and all he did was talk about himself. He didn't seem to think there was someone else in the picture with him, right? He didn't seem to care that I had to also go through this too. We lost our home. It's not just him. We lost it. The landlord sold. I already said I don't trust this guy. I already wasn't quite sure I wanted to go over there. But yeah, I did choose for my husband to have a garage and to benefit him. And so for all that goodness I've done to him, he walked all over me, right? And there's definitely forgiveness, but he's not my type anymore. He is not what I'm looking for in a man anymore. And as you grow older, there are things that happen in life, and you mature, right? So, if he would be somebody who would have, been broken, I do pray God will break him to see what he's done, and repented and been like, holy cow, you know what I just did to my wife and my kids? I totally left them. I took a fit of anger. I left them in the dust. I had a responsibility to make sure when we were in a hotel that was not sustainable because CAP New Hampshire was running out, that money was running out. And good thing I applied for that because we could have all been on the street, right? So I had applied for that. I was working at the time while we were in the hotel, but it was just like, this is not sustainable. Even with the money there, the hotels, like some nights they're like, okay, we have no room, we're super busy. It just was not sustainable, even with affording a hotel. So, he benefited from me going to Colorado, and I was like, our son needs a roof over his head, and you're not going to allow him to be homeless. You're not. So, for doing the right thing, and I look back and I'm like, geez, did you do the right thing? It was difficult at first for me to get over here. It was, to adjust. But now I'm settled and I'm happy and I am all good to go. My finances are finally improving. And I'll tell you something, and this has to do with the pro-life stuff, okay? I would have been better off in many ways marrying the guy who got me pregnant. Because he got me pregnant, there should have been a responsibility. And my mother got him out of it. There should have been a responsibility. If she's good enough to sleep with, she's good enough to marry, kind of thing. Men back in the day, and I'm pretty sure my dad married my mother because she was pregnant with me, you had a responsibility toward a woman. Men had responsibilities. I would have been fine. My mother was like, you were too young. That's all I got. And you know what? They had money. They had stuff. Even if we were not together, the child would have had a lot because their family had money. So, there was no need for that. So, and even if we were not together, I definitely think, even if the baby was born, probably at one point, unless we had some counsel, I probably still would have been with my husband. It was meant to be. And I have my 5, beautiful sons. I love them. But unless there was like a major change in my husband, you just cannot stay in a marriage with that kind of abuse, with, the narcissist. It's all about me. I'm going to do what I want, and I don't care about my kids, and I don't care about you. I don't care, whether you even have food on the table. That's not a husband. So when we define husband, we have to define what a husband is, right? So I married him. Someone said to me before, when he wasn't being nice to me, I left the first year because he wasn't being nice to me, and his family came over. He went and cried to his mother. I should have saw this coming. Melissa left me, right? And instead of leaving him there and letting him walk to the store, they went and got groceries for him. Right down the road, he could have walked to the store. If she left me without food in the cupboard, he was not being nice to me at all. So I left, and to this day, I have no regret for that first year of marriage of leaving. It was only a couple, like maybe a week or so. I was in hairdressing school, and everyone's like, wow, he's a jerk to you. So I left, but then when I became a Christian, I got saved, turned my life around. He supposedly said he got saved. Not sure. People can say things, but at this point, I don't know. And move forward, right? And we raised our kids. We had a family. The boys enjoyed two parents, and they enjoyed, me staying home, homeschooling, all that stuff we enjoyed. And then my husband just decided he didn't want to be married anymore. Not only did he break his commitment to the marriage, but he broke his word to me too. He totally broke a contract. When you are partners, right, the contract was, so to say, his word. His word was, yeah, go over to Colorado, we'll figure things out. I'm like, we got to figure things out. It wasn't even my idea. He's like, oh, you planned this all ahead. No, I didn't. My son's wife walked out on him, and he's like, look, I need a roommate right now because she just walked out and I need help. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, we're in a hotel right now. I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, you got to make up your mind. And we had talked about it like 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, I don't know. And then it was like, yep, it was definitely meant to be. It was like, yep, Dad's not doing a thing. He's not lifting a finger to take care of his family. He left us, like in a hotel. He didn't care. He just did not care. And I was hoping by me pulling back a little bit with not being a mother to him, that he would actually take some responsibility. So he still didn't. And to this day, he doesn't take any responsibility for leaving his wife and his son, his minor son, in the ditch, basically. And his, it was 2 years ago, so his other son had just turned 18, and he was just, Dad wasn't there. So if he thinks he's coming back in my life now, because I pulled the cross petition away so I don't drag him, I'm not going to drag him through court with domestic abuse. It's enough that the court heard it. It's enough that there's a phone call in Webster, I think. Hopefully he learned his lesson. Hopefully he learned not to touch a woman, because he was in his truck for a long time. Hopefully he's learned his lesson. But no, I need a man. And a man doesn't act like that. And I was talking to one of the guys at work, and he's like, what? He just totally left you? He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And he's like, I'm not okay with that stuff as a man. He's like, I don't like that shit, basically. He's like, this is not okay what he did to you. And when you have men who are not even your husbands actually show care and concern, that's amazing. So yeah, he ditched his wife. He basically might as well have killed me, honestly, because he left us with absolutely nothing. And he didn't even want to take care of his kid. He didn't even want to, he fought all the way. He didn't want to pay child support. He didn't want to take care of anybody but his own ass, basically. And I don't usually swear. But that's the truth. All he cared about was himself. And this is a man a boy, I should say, who never learned to grow up. And, you see old people now, and I heard someone talking about this today, and it's true. When you're older, you see old people holding hands. You see old people, just enjoying the golden years. They talk about each other well. They compliment each other. They're still in love. That's how I thought the end of the marriage would go. Like it would turn into something like that. He always said, I want to grow old together. And he told me all these lies, and just at the end, the real fruit came out. So what my point is to you ladies out there who have a boy who never grew up because his mother never let him grow up, let Christ comfort you. Christ will comfort you. He will help you through it. You'll be better than before. You will, because someone like that drags you down. And that's something I didn't realize. I was like, oh my goodness, someone in my family saw it years ago. I was pregnant, and I was carrying in the sand to cover the snow so nobody would fall in front of our steps. And this person was like, why can't he carry the sand? You're pregnant, and it pisses me off basically to see you doing this, and he can't get off his ass and help you. Like I said, I don't usually swear, but that I was like taken aback by that. Like, of course I'm used to working hard. Of course I'm going to take care of the steps and make sure, especially me and nobody else, falls when they visit. But this person pointed it out that he ought to be doing that. And I thought, yeah, he's right. He's absolutely right. So this has been a gift to me. I am happy. I need a man. I need a man who cares. I need a man who cares about God, who loves God. That is my standard now. I need a man who loves, family, a man who actually would never ever leave his sons. I mean, I feel so bad for my sons. I really do. If I feel more bad for them than I do for me. I feel bad for my guys, especially the younger two, because they're growing up in this world with no dad to help them, guide them, They do have some examples of some good men in their life, but it's still not dad. And so they got the short end of the stick out of all of this. One of the guys said it's too bad, at least for, the sons, that this couldn't have worked out. And so I need a man. I don't need a man. I don't mean like I personally need a man. I mean, if I was ever to remarry again, it would be a man who loves God. There's no question about it. And it would be a man who has convictions, who sticks to his word. He knows right and wrong. He would never, ever, I would have a list now. I didn't have a list before. I would have a list of a godly man, and a man who cares about his body. My husband doesn't like to exercise. A man who cares about his money. It was a gift for me to say to my husband, get off your butt basically in the truck and get to work and figure out your finances. I used to say, why can't you help me with the finances? I would go to him and I would be like, can you help me? So once he did take over the budget, he's like, I can't do it. There's not enough money here. And I'm like, now you see what I go through because you chose not to work this is like when we had 3 little ones. And I'm like, and you won't step up. So, this is what you left me with. So he didn't like being left in the truck, but you know what? He left me with my arms tied behind my back with 3 little ones, pretty much barefoot and pregnant. And then later on with the cancer, and then 2 more, he still did not, I'm like, go get your ASEs. I motivated him with that. Then he didn't want to renew them, but yet he wanted me to stay home. So that's a double standard there. When a man wants you to stay home, that's fine, but he doesn't want to get out there and bust his butt basically to make sure his family's taken care of. So when you see those red flags, be aware of what's really going on. And when he ran to his mommy and daddy to take care of them, if we needed help, he ran to them, and his dad was like, we're not your bank, we're not your bank. Must be nice to come to us. So he wouldn't, they were okay with us borrowing money up until they wanted stuff, which was all of our time. And when I said no, then they weren't happy. They're like, oh, you can take money from us, but you don't want a relationship with us. So, no, I'm not going to be brought with money. I don't let people buy me. So he chose to run back to his mommy and daddy to help him. So when you don't have a real man, you don't let him go. Let him go. He doesn't. It's very biblical too. When a man doesn't want to take care of his family, he won't provide for his family. He's worse than an unbeliever, and that's pretty bad, right? Because even his father had been bitter because his father left his mother with 10 kids, and his father had to go work. Couldn't even finish school. He had to work to take care of his family, and I think he always wore that badge of honor for that, and that is admirable that he did that. And his father always worked hard to make sure they had plenty. And he just his father basically felt like if a man, I think he felt bitter that his father left, because If a man can't take care of his own family, even unbelievers, the Bible talks about, knows this. Even unbelievers know it's a man's job to take care of his family. And when a man won't do that, it's pretty bad. It's pretty low. So that's the kind of man that he turned out to be. And my father had said, when I dated different boys, my father had said, different guys, he said, I wouldn't marry him. He goes, because he does drugs and he's not motivated. And at the time he was smoking pot. He wouldn't even get out there and get a job. I helped him get a job. He was like more than a loser. I mean, he was just doing nothing with his life. And I look back and I'm like, yeah, my father was right about that one. He wasn't motivated. So I thought, you know, him going to church and everything, I thought I married him thinking I could change him. I thought I could, you know, do him good. And that is one mistake women make when you think you can change a man, because you can't. And if he cannot get up on his own 2 feet and get himself to church and start caring about himself, then do not marry a guy who can't give back. Don't marry a guy like that. So that's what I got for now. I will be free pretty soon from this marriage, and I was hoping God would break him enough for him to come to his senses, because he totally betrayed me. I think he's probably even got a girlfriend who drinks with him. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. It's all done. It doesn't matter to me anymore whether he's got money, whether he's got a house, whether he's got a nice car. I'm not materialistic. I've had all that stuff before growing up. I've had a lot of stuff. My dad worked hard. My mom worked hard. I don't need all that. I'm very minimalist. But a guy to me who would be good to me and has a heart of gold is what I would look for in a man. So this is just my advice. I have no plans of remarrying, but for a young woman, look for a man with a good heart. That's what you want. If he's got the heart, then you got everything. Okay, thanks for joining me, guys.